Grace. Detroit rooted, revolutionary. Philosophically sound and evolutionary, Grace was wise beyond 100 years, a century of badass. She was a struggle-focused theoretician. Grace projected vision, couldn't be bothered with frivolity or empty conversations, in constant epoch evaluation, contemplating dialectics. Grace synced her clock aside the world's and pushed others at her pace. Amazing grace indeed, brilliant, resilient. If you were weak, Grace could feel it. Got no time for fears and grieving, an anti-intellectual genius. Grace shared her marbles freely, and we, the children of Martin and Malcolm, picked them up. Grace was struggle wrapped in love and sometimes painful conversations in Maine, in Detroit, a solutionary, clairvoyant in the struggle. Grace was centuries ahead, well read and not afraid to read you. Grace was seeds for growing souls, a reluctant growth for many. She was the other half of Jimmy, dynamic duo in the struggle, a Chinese American living for change, a tiny frame with mighty voice. She nurtured us the way tough lovers do. Grace was a thinker and a doer. She planted her spirit across the globe, so we don't mourn her death today. Plus, Grace wouldn't have it anyway. Dear Grace Lee Boggs, you are a giant, defiant. No go along to get along. Thank you, Grace, for all your strength and for all you gave the world to contemplate.
All right, welcome back to the Piper Carter podcast. You are listening to Piper Carter, and I just brought my guest in right away. Let me take off this commercial. Let me start sharing my screen, and which is like really apropos,
right?
We're here discussing some digital justice. That poem was super incredible, though. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Grace Lee Boggs' birthday is in June, so it's pretty timely reflection.
Yeah, first of all, Grace Lee Boggs. Honor the ancestor. Ashe. Grace Lee Boggs, Jimmy Boggs.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
His birthday is this month.
Thank you, Ashe. And thank you, Tawana Petty.
Thank you, Piper Carter.
Yeah, I'm very excited that you're here on the podcast. I'm trying to think. Were you on here before?
It's hard to remember. I know I've been on something of yours. Maybe this one.
No. You were. We were, because we were talking about Digital Justice Coalition before.
Okay.
We were promoting something else. I don't remember what it was.
Right.
But I am very honored, first of all, that you're here. I haven't done you too much justice, so let me I know you're super modest and everything like that, but first of all, I want to encourage everyone to like, share, subscribe Piper Carter podcast on the Detroit is Different podcast network. So while you're here, please go to the description of this video and you can see Tawana's website, tawanapetty.org. On her, I know her, but I want to honor that she's written this great bio here where it says she's a mother, a social justice organizer, a youth advocate, a poet, an author who has spent 15 years teaching poetry as visionary resistance to unjust policies and practices, and is a longtime organizer whose work primarily focuses on racial justice and equity issues, as well as advocating for data and digital privacy rights. She's authored and co-authored and consulted on several publications, including but not limited to Towards Humanity, Shifting the Culture of Anti-Racism, Towards Racism and Organizing, and Coming Out My Box, From Protecting Ourselves to Taking Care of Each Other, The Digital Defense Playbook, Community Power Tools for Reclaiming Data, a toolkit for centering racial equity throughout data integration and technologies for liberation toward abolitionist futures, and is also a founding member and former editorial board member of Riverwise magazine. And so she also is serves on so many boards and is a go-to person for just everything data digital justice, but also leads her own organization, Petty Propolis, which is a Black woman led artist incubator that's primarily focused on cultivating visionary resistance through poetry, literacy, and literary workshops, anti racism facilitation, and social justice initiatives. And Petty Propolis organizes regular artist workshops, artist retreats, and an artist festival in historic Idlewild, Michigan. And so she's won so many awards. I mean, I've been talking a minute. I would like to let you go ahead and speak, but I could have probably said most of that stuff off the top of my head, but it was actually written better than I probably could have said it. So I wanted to honor your words. So welcome, 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 Tawana Petty.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Piper. Talking about somebody who's humble, all the millions of things you do that you never talk about.
Well, yeah, you know. Hey, oh my goodness. Brittany's here. Oh my God.
Brittany! Whoop, whoop.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna set Brittany up. And while I set
Yes,
her up, I'm gonna go ahead and give you maybe like 2-3 minutes to like go ahead and talk about, you know, Tawana Petty and all the things you do. I mean, I read your bio, but I wanted you to kind of give people a more human touch to like, who you are.
sure. I am a lifelong Detroiter. I've spent a pretty hefty amount of my adult life trying to respirit uh, young people and community members who have been really dehumanized in the city of Detroit. We're talking about a half century of propaganda assault leveraged against Detroiters in media and music, in images. And so when you have grown up in the city, I'm 46 years old. So for my entire life, Detroit has had a dominant negative narrative. You know, you have to grow up and get out of here. You know, Detroiters are hopeless, helpless, non contributory human beings. Just very negative images with regard to Detroit, which has an impact on policy, and it has an impact on the ways that not only we see ourselves, but the ways others see us as well. And so I've spent a lot of time leveraging my art, my organizing efforts to combat situations like that so that we can be treated fairly and humanely, and can have the resources allocated in our neighborhoods in ways that recognize our full humanity. And so I've authored, as Piper has indicated, I authored a book called Towards Humanity Shifting the Culture of Anti Racism Organizing. And I teach workshops, some of which can be found online. Um, I also helped and consulted on a toolkit called Centering Racial Equity throughout data integration, which is important, especially in this moment that we're talking about artificial general intelligence and it's like all the hype, and talking about the ways that you center racial equity through the data life cycle, the planning, the collection while accessing data, the use of algorithms and statistical tools, and the analysis of data and a reporting and dissemination. And so, as well as technologies for liberation, towards abolitionist futures, consulted on that, co-authored a consentful tech curriculum. So just have contributed to a lot of resources that try to be, ahead of some of the harms that we're witnessing right now with ramped up technological advancement and innovation. And so, and then of course, happy to have been a convening member of Detroit Digital Justice Coalition since 2016. Piper Carter is a co founder of the DDJC. And so We organize data discotheques, short for Discovering Technology Fairs. We have one coming up on May 21st at Alkebu-Lan Village. I know Piper's going to share that info in the description. And so you should come out. It's from 2 to 5 p.m. for people of all ages. Folks can skate, they can play big board games. They can go around to various tech stations and learn about digital and data safety, solar, and Freedom Growers will be there. Riverwise Magazine will be there. Detroit Community Technology Project will be there. Family First Solar will be there. Decrypted will be there. Detroit is Different, of course, will be there. Brittany will be there. It's Food Detroit. And so, like, there's just so much amazing things that are happening. This is a free community event where we can have community voices in a discussion with regard to technology and innovation in a way that we're not currently seeing.
Wow.
I said a
That
lot.
was
I
like
know.
so much. That was like so much. I'm like, I'm gonna stay off camera for 1 second. I just want to ask you one more question around could you man, there's so many questions I need to ask you, but I think the first thing I want to ask you, tell us if you can around this. You did something called Data for Black Lives. You worked on that project, and I wanted you to talk about that a little bit.
So that was an organization that I used to serve as national organizing director for, and they did a lot of work around data weapons. And so that being like any surveillance technology or technology that's harmful and leverages our data for nefarious purposes. And so that's an organization that I used to be part of, where I led the Hubs program, which was different community hubs in various cities and different states, which was community organizers on the ground, rooted in their own communities, doing organizing efforts. And then we resourced their efforts on the ground. And so I led the Hubs program through my national organizing efforts with Data for Black Lives. Also used to co-lead our data bodies, which was it is a participatory research project across 3 cities: Detroit, Charlotte, and LA. And that's where we produce the digital defense playbook, which you can find online. And it has a lot of activities that you can do in community to start to have conversations about these digital tools and ways that we can engage with one another in a more consentful fashion. And then, of course, the Consentful Tech curriculum, which is a kind of train-the-trainer curriculum that helps guide you through the process of thinking through digital technologies and just how to be more consentful in relationship in general. And so that was co-authored with Una Lee of the Consentful Tech Project.
Yeah, thanks for that. Also, too, there's so many things that I just wanted you to unpack. So, I think another thing that I wanted you to share about is you've been, I'm gonna say, like a driver. Maybe that is a word you can accept. You've been a driver of this work around combating surveillance, demystifying harmful technologies. I'm gonna say helping tool communities with ways in which for us to be informed and also be invested in this fight. I hope I don't trigger or traumatize you too much by asking you to talk about some of this stuff, because I know that it's very sensitive. But from what you can, what you feel comfortable, to talk about, can you speak about that work? The work of, I'll say it for me, I noticed it first in Detroit, but I know you do this all over the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my aunt earlier and I talked about how, there really does have to, similar to if a person works in social work, right? There has to be some kind of respite for people who hear about harms all the time, or are constantly trying to protect or um, defend humans from harm. And so in my working capacity and a lot of my organizing capacity, I find myself in spaces where I'm trying to be an intervention between community members who are experiencing harm and helping to raise the consciousness around harms that are either coming up the pike or existing, and community members aren't aware of them because of a lack of transparency or gaslighting from tech companies. And then having opportunities to sit in policy spaces where I can talk, respond to what I'm hearing on the ground from community members who are learning about these harms or experiencing these harms. And so you have to take some time to be away from the AI hype that's in the media, as well as the actual harms that you do know that exist, just to regroup and stay in the struggle for more, against algorithmic discrimination, and to create more humane digital technologies and ways that we engage with each other on the internet and off the internet. And so, yeah, the work is can be triggering. You can be harmed just in proximity because you are receiving and listening to and trying to address harms, and and in a hype cycle where the tech companies, mostly ran by white tech bros, are driving the narrative, that makes it even more difficult to challenge some of the harms. And so, yes, a lot of work. But, when you feel called to do a work, you do the work, right? And so that's where I find myself.
So thank you for that. I'm gonna in this moment, I want to just bring Brittany into the conversation. So I'm going to say peace to Brittany. What's up, Brittany?
Peace.
Oh, wait.
Brittany.
Oh, say it again. No, I don't hear you. Maybe because, how about now? You can hear yourself? I don't hear you. Can you hear? Can you hear her?
Hello. Brittany's low, but I definitely
Brittany's
can
super
hear
low,
it,
right?
and like love.
Wait, how about now? Say something now.
Hello?
No? How about now?
Hello?
I think,
Better.
is that
Much
your mic?
better.
Okay, they switched mics on us. How about now?
Is that better?
No, how about that one?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Okay,
That's
that one's
better.
your mic. That one's your mic. They switched the mics on us. So sorry about that.
Hi, Tawana.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm
know,
doing good.
Tawana is so humble. Like, she just comes by the village and just sits and just waits for her food like a regular patron. Like, she's not just like the pillar of Afrofuturism in Detroit. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You back there humble, like you're not feeding the whole city.
Oh, I'm so excited for Sunday. I don't know what to do. Like, that event
Yes.
is so intentional, but at the same time so free flowing, and just
What event are you talking about, Brittany?
the event.
You gotta, but you and I and Tawana know the event. You gotta remember, people listening, watching.
I did talk about it though, Pipes. I did
Yeah,
say
you did.
Discotech.
Uh-huh.
Discotech on Sunday,
Uh-huh.
May 21st at Alkebu-Lan Village from 2 to 5.
Right. Description is in this, the details in this description of this video.
Yes, the details are in the description of this video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep feeding me.
Yeah. So what's your role?
Pizza.
Oh
Detroit
my
stuff.
gosh.
So
People
it's
still
Food
talking
Detroit.
about it. They still talking about it from last time.
Oh, really? Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. Well, I'm excited, especially because there's going to be so much collaboration. So there's going to be anytime there's just like so many people at Alkebu-Lan, like it literally gives the village, which is, its last part of its name, right? It just feels so village-like. And then this event is so different from anything that happens at the village. It's so different. It's on its own pedestal. So I'm excited. And I know you guys are excited. So
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've done the event before, Brittany, right? Did you have some questions for Tawana about the event itself?
yeah. can you tell us about who's all going to be there? I know you kind of like briefly went into it, but let's talk about like the intentional. Yes, we're going to be doing the skating, right? But let's talk about the tech side of it and what the intention is behind the tech side of it and who's going to be in the building specifically that pushes that part of it.
Yes, yes. So I'll say so. Detroit Digital Justice Coalition is we are about 13 years old now, and
Mhm.
yeah, and so our work is rooted in digital justice principles, which are access, participation, common ownership, and healthy communities. And so we try to make sure that whatever activities that we engage with at our Discotech, short for Discovering Technology, fairs, are rooted in those digital justice principles. And so our partners for this discotheque are, of course, Alkebu-Lan, Detroit Community Technology Project, Feed 'em Freedom Growers, Riverwise Magazine, Family First Solar, Decrypted. Ivy Locks just came on board. They're going to do the big board games. And we have, am I missing folks? I hope I'm not missing folks.
Oh my God, my brain is drawing a blank.
Let me see. I'll make sure I'm not missing folks. So yeah, Detroit Community Technology Project, Detroit Digital Justice Coalition, Detroit is Different, Family First Solar, Riverwise. Oh, Petty Propolis, duh.
Oh
My
yeah,
art org.
Petty Propolis.
Feed 'em Freedom Growers and Decrypted. And so, like as an example, like Decrypted is like a hacker org that is committed to community security and safety online. And so, so super stoked that they reached out and are going to do a station. Detroit Community Technology Project, that's an organization that I used to serve as the director, the data justice director there. And that organization has been with the DDJC since the beginning. In many ways, that organization was founded out of the principles that were defined by community organizations who said that they needed an organization that was focused on technology rooted in those principles. So the Detroit Community Technology Project came out of that organizing that Piper and so many were part of back in 2009. I came into the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition as a volunteer probably somewhere around 2012 or 2013, and then have just been a convening member since 2016. But the Discotech's purpose is to not only demystify data and technology and digital infrastructure, but it's to remind us that technology is so many things. It's not just digital, right? Technology is Riverwise Magazine. Technology are the tools that we leverage for technology is what you leverage to cook those amazing homemade pizzas for us. And so
Right.
it really is bringing back the ways that we see technology and tools in our community, and having a more holistic dialogue that doesn't just have us tied to what's happening online. And then with regard to online, we're moving beyond just access, but we're thinking about the harms that happen online and then the possible solutions that can happen online. So we try to have stations where community members can get new information, learn new skills, and then become responsible community members when they are engaged online and have access to technological tools.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you for coming on the show. I know I thanked you profusely before, but I'm glad that you're here. Let me see. I'm sharing my screen, and I think I'm sharing my screen.
I just see me.
Okay. All right. I want to share this one. Yes. Okay. Boom. Okay. So I want to just put the flyer up there.
Isn't it dope?
Look at that
Yeah.
flyer.
So
Amazing.
tell us about that flyer.
Well, I reached out to my bro G Mac, Greg McKenzie, and he had it designed. So that's as far as Tawana went.
Yeah, no, I mean it looks cool. I love it. And it's super fun, huh? It looks like
Yeah.
it makes me want to go there. And it looks like there's gonna be a lot of fun there. And it looks really exciting. And I just love that Alkebu-Lan Village has the skate rink, and
Yes,
also that Brittany's gonna be there with that pizza. So it's all ages are welcome. So that means parents, you could bring your young people. There's a room for the young
please.
people and all types of activities like, games and people to be there with us, having a great time. But also, if you need to like, have a trusted adult helping to be engaged with a young person while you want to, skate or something, we make sure that we got you covered. Um
And there
and,
are like little safety bars, little safety things for like young people to skate
mhm.
as well, and that we'll be bringing. And we have some young station managers
Oh, good.
who are going to be manning stations, so your young person can go talk to a young person about technology. And like we have Kazaya is going to be doing a station on how safe is your password, and she's like 9 or 10.
I love
So,
that.
so
I love
yeah,
that.
it's going to be great. And I believe Greg's son is going to do a station on an article he wrote about surveillance. You know what I'm
Oh, cool.
saying? So
Very
we look,
cool.
yeah. So we got the young people are engaged too. They have their own voice and their own contributions. And then, like you said, Piper, in the youth station, like we want them to like, we're going to have some activities where they can tell us what would a safe world look like for them in their own words, like draw your community, in different activities like that. So like it's all about making sure that the society that we're creating has their voice, and their voice is put to the forefront actually, because adults have made enough mistakes, and it's time for us to listen.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. And then so all right, I want to get into some of the like nitty-gritty litty stuff. Oh, you know what? Let's go all the way over and then we'll come back. So,
Okay.
let's just start. Okay, also too, you've been going around speaking on data justice for a while now. I want to say, is it a decade yet?
11 years.
11 years, right? Yeah. Okay. So 11 years. You're a poet, so you're a creative person.
Mm-hmm.
You have used your voice prior to this. You've been in the justice movement, doing justice work as an artist, and now you're in the justice movement, you know doing this data work. So you're not new to the justice space. You have created a pathway, right? And as you've been learning, you've also been sharing, and some of the stuff that you've been sharing is pretty freaking scary. Um, and let's just go all the way to AI. Everyone wants to know more about AI. Every meeting that I'm in, at least uh maybe 5 times a day minimum, I hear the
Yeah.
word AI. And people in the worlds that I'm in is all the way from like, I heard about the AI, to like, I heard it's bad, to like, oh, I love it, and we ought to be on it, to like, oh, we're gonna be collaborating with this or that, AI, blah blah blah, for some art. So it's
But
all
isn't
over
it
the
so
spectrum.
interesting? Isn't it so interesting, Piper? And you probably will, you will probably understand my pain, right?
Hmm.
So I just told you how long I've been talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not until some white older tech bro dude decides he wants to speak up and say we should be concerned, or even the younger tech bro dudes that say, oh, we should really worry, that work at the actual tech companies, that everybody wants
Hmm.
to talk about it now. But I can name countless women, and predominantly Black women, I might add, who have been at the forefront of the research, the authoring of the books, the congressional testimonies on the Hill, et cetera, um, who were essentially like hyped up for a second, but then ignored. And then it's like now the godfather of AI has spoken after he decided he wanted to retire from Google. And it's like every other day somebody's calling me wanting to talk about it. And so it's so funny, and then with the onset of Chat GPT, it's like, everybody wants to talk about it. And so it's a gift and a curse. I'm glad folks want to talk about it, but also like, how you get to the point where you're burned out talking about it, but now everybody wants to talk about it.
So
that's kind of what I'm seeing, experience in the field. And so are a lot of my colleagues who are really at the forefront of the research.
So let's go back to that point then, and let's dig into that point. Let's talk about you and these other Black women and your research and your advocacy. Let's talk about that. Let's uplift that, and let's shine some light on that. So tell us about that journey. Tell us about what you've what you've done, what you've worked on, what you have discovered, and just share that journey with us a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll talk about my journey, then I'll just lift up a couple of other folks' journey. So if we think about my journey, I started off as like a community member who went to, a concerned parent who went to like an allied media conference in Detroit, right? And was learning about the various ways to think about media for liberation. And through building that relationship with allied media projects, I came into relationship with Detroit Digital Justice Coalition. And through those efforts, I started to raise my consciousness around access to digital technologies, internet, etc. But the more I learned about access, the more I learned about exposure. So the more access we have, the more exposure we have. And through that process, I became a community researcher with our data bodies. And, there was a running theme across 3 cities that we were doing our research in. And it was community members saying that they felt that their data was being leveraged, not to their benefit, but to their detriment, that these companies were using their information and weaponizing it against them. So if they were unable to afford their water, as an example, that was following them like a data trail or a data stream to every other decision they were trying to make for their upward mobility, like trying to get a home or things like that. In Charlotte, there were a lot of formerly incarcerated community members who were saying that they were having a very difficult time reintegrating with society because they were locked into this past mistake, even if they had served their time, or even in instances where they weren't even convicted of a crime. This data was following them and making these decisions about their life that they could not get out of. And in LA, there were a lot of unhoused community members who were saying like, these past mistakes were preventing them from being housed, from having a good job. And so this looping cycle of injustice is just perpetually happening to community members. And so a running theme across all 3 cities was community members saying like, we feel like we want to be seen, but we're being watched. We don't want to be watched. We want to be seen. Like we feel like we're being targeted and tracked, and it's to our detriment and not to our benefit and to our humanity. And so that has been kind of my trajectory. I moved on from being a community researcher to being a data justice director at Detroit Community Technology Project, where I led the data justice program. And at that point, I started to do a lot of organizing against Project Greenlight and facial recognition in Detroit. I moved on from there to Data for Black Lives, where I led the Hubs program as National Organizing Director. And then my current role now is with the Algorithmic Justice League as Director of Policy and Advocacy, where I do a lot of legislative work on a local, national, international level. So that is me. My boss at the job that I work at is Dr. Joy Buolamwini, who it was her groundbreaking research, Gender Shades, that broke wide open the fact that facial recognition was discriminatory towards Black, darker skin tones. And so there's a poem online of hers called AI, Ain't I a Woman, that is very useful. And of course, there are a lot of resources on the Algorithmic Justice League's website that can be leveraged. Dr. Timnit Gebru, she was a former Google data scientist who was terminated for warning Google about the harms of large language models, which large language models is what made up Chat GPT. So she was terminated. It was a big, wide national story um, for um, for raising the alarm. And then later, Margaret Mitchell, who was also on her team, was terminated for having that groundbreaking research, for trying to warn us, them and the public, about the dangers of a potential Chat GPT, only for OpenAI to later launch it and it be like the darling of the public. And then there are other, there's Ruha Benjamin, who wrote the new Jim Code, abolitionist, race after technology, abolitionist tools for the new Jim Code, and then viral justice. And so there are so many folks that I could lift up, but there are so many women who have been contributing to this work for a long time, who are just erased and not being acknowledged for the contributions that they have made and have tried to make, in making sure that algorithmic discrimination is fought, and that we experience technology in an ethical way.
Yeah, can you I wanted to ask if you could also dig into a little bit more around when you so I think when I first remember, like, I'm gonna say the beginning of, like, when I first remember you talking a lot about data, it was pretty much like a mystery, right, to me. And I think
Mhm.
the first time that it actually like I knew about like data following you, but I guess maybe in my lived experience, having had data follow me and just being like, whatever, I didn't, it didn't land on me until you started being at the forefront of the green light battle, I'll say, right?
Mhm.
So can you one, can you, we've talked about green light on here before. However, could you just for the people who maybe this is their first time hearing about green light or blue light, could you give us just an understanding of what that project is, the fight that uh ensued, if you will, and like where that fight is, or where that project is, or where that work is around that right now?
Yeah, so Project Greenlight is a public-private partnership between law enforcement, government, and private tech companies like Guardian Alarm Company, where flashing green lights are connected to businesses, some public housing, gas stations, liquor stores, restaurants, etc. Blanketed all across the city. They leverage facial recognition technologies to surveil those locations, and they have access to images from social media, as well as Michigan State's SNAP database, which is a database that contains millions of images. Essentially, every person who's taken a state ID or driver's license since 1999 in the state of Michigan is in that database, so they can compare images that they get from these surveillance cameras to that database, as well as I indicated, social media. And now will also be traffic cameras, as they have used the surveillance traffic cameras and have expanded that. Officers have access to these, also have access to the surveillance technology from their mobile devices. So they could be chilling at home and watch a location if they want to. We fought vehemently to get this removed from our communities for a number of reasons. Number one, it blankets the city with mass surveillance. So if you know anything about China and China's social credit system, where there's so much surveillance that there's nowhere for community members to go without being monitored by police. We're trying to prevent Detroit from becoming similar to that. In addition to that, with the racial disparities of facial recognition, we warned that there would be community members who were misidentified. And as you know, Detroit has had a couple known cases, and there have been more across the United States since then, all Black men to date. And of course, there was a case with facial recognition with Lamia Robinson, was 14-year-old girl who went to a skating rink, got her temperature checked at the beginning stages of COVID, and was misidentified and told that she had been in a fight earlier that year. So they ejected her from the skating rink in the middle of the night without a parent present. And so we warned about the harms of these technologies based on that research that I referenced earlier. And, unfortunately, Detroit continued to move forward. And we had the misidentification cases where there are now lawsuits against the city, which we know taxpayers tend to pay for those lawsuits. In addition to that, but I will say this, we did have some small victories. So when Project Greenlight, which originally was only going to be at like 6 gas stations that opened late, but now we're at over 2,000 cameras at over 700 businesses and institutions and growing. They were able to do real-time tracking. So what that is before we intervened and raised the awareness and had all the protests, etc., an officer would be able to, just walk past or ride past any person and track them in real time. They are prohibited from doing that because a policy was put in place based on all of our resistance. So they can't just walk through the neighborhood and target you with facial recognition, but they were able to do that before we resisted. The challenge with that, though, now is the surveillance traffic cameras have kind of created a situation where, although we won that fight with Project Greenlight, and the mobile devices that officers were using for Project Greenlight, if the expansion of traffic cameras passes in the city, they will be able to real time track you. So in Texas, it's been found that with the same technologies, with the surveillance traffic cameras, that police officers were getting alerts to their squad cars that would tell them, oh, this car is on the move. So they would pick up people who owed court fees, who were driving with suspended license. So they knew anytime your car was in motion. So right now there is a proposal on the table to blanket the city of Detroit with those surveillance traffic cameras, which would allow for officers to pretty much create hot lists that let them know whatever car that they're looking for whenever that car drives past one of those surveillance traffic cameras. I testified before the Board of Police Commissioners meeting last week, and there were others who showed up and testified as well. But unfortunately, the track record with city government in Detroit is that they don't necessarily care that there's a groundswell of people who push back. They end up voting to approve those technologies anyway, which is why I have moved most of my work to trying to work on a federal level and prevent some of these things before they get to us.
Man, there's so many questions I have, but before before I get to my other questions, I wanted so that was Project Greenlight, and then you went into what's the name of the one for the traffic the license
Surveillance
plates?
traffic cameras. I forget what they're called. I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, and so that one will track your license plate. And
Mhm.
where is that one right now? You said they have to think about if they're going to do it or not.
It's supposed to come back on the agenda this Thursday.
Okay. And then
Traffic light mounted cameras or something like that.
tell us about the shot spotter.
Yeah, so shouts out to Detroit Justice Center, who has taken on a lawsuit along with other coalition members. I think We the People of Michigan, Acre, and I apologize, the Bog Center and others have
Detroit
taken on
Action.
Detroit Action. Thank you. Have taken on a lawsuit to sue city government because they expanded upon ShotSpotter without the proper notice to the public. The basis for their lawsuit is the Community Input over Government Surveillance Ordinance, which is an ordinance that was championed by Council Pro Tem Mary Sheffield and the ACLU. They do these kind of CIOGS ordinances in various ways across the United States and different states, each state having their own iteration of that ordinance. And so the city government violated the ordinance, and that is the basis for the Detroit Justice Center filing their suit and having. I sat in on the live stream of the hearing, and so they're waiting on a decision regarding that hearing as well on whether or not that expansion will be prevented. And what
Okay.
ShotSpotter is
Yeah.
so they changed their name to Sound. Hold on, ShotSpotter. I'll tell you one second. ShotSpotter changed name to Sound Thinking. And so, but the technology itself is still called ShotSpotter. So the company, which was named the same as the technology, has changed its name to Sound Thinking. But the technology, the gunshot detection system, is still called ShotSpotter, to be clear. And ShotSpotter is a gunshot detection system that captures sounds that resemble gunshots, but it also captures a few seconds of audio. So whatever sound is happening in that proximity, it could be conversations or whatever. But it's been proven in numerous cities to not be a viable technology, and it definitely does not prevent gunshots. And so that's a technology that we also fought. Just really the surveillance creep that's happening in Detroit. We have surveillance drones, surveillance helicopters, surveillance traffic cams, Project Greenlight, facial recognition, mobile devices with the technology. And so Detroit has become a sort of a panopticon. And what a panopticon is, it's like if you think about a prison that is shaped in kind of like this circular way where the prisoners are unable to see who's watching them and they can't see each other, but they know they're being watched. The prison guard can see everyone, but the prisoners cannot see the guard. And so that is kind of the type of situation that we're facing in Detroit, where every move you make is monitored. Um, but it's a one directional witnessing that is happening. And because these technologies are leveraged by tech companies who have zero accountability to what they're leveraging our data for and no accountability to us as human beings, it's a very dangerous precedent to have those types of tools in the hands of law enforcement when there is no real federal legislation that's preventing them from the harms.
Yeah, and so I think I think in general, maybe people know, maybe people don't know, but there has been I'm gonna say a swell of energy around protesting against the cop city that's
Mhm.
in Atlanta. Detroit also has I think it's a cop city of sorts in Grayling. And I
Mhm.
wanted to know if you could tell us a bit about Grayling as well.
Grayling is not my expertise,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Hmm.
It's not my expertise, but I mean, really, when I think of policing, I don't just think of the infrastructure, right? I
Hmm.
think of the culture of
Hmm.
policing. And so I'm really definitely willing to step back when it's not my expertise. But
Yeah, yeah.
I will say we're moving to a system where it won't matter. We won't need an infrastructure in order to be police because we have accepted a culture where we've allowed tech companies and automated systems and each other to police each other. We have people on neighborhood app that are reporting on one another. You have ring doorbells at everybody's homes with tech companies that are not accountable to that data. And so the policing as a system has been rapidly advanced and expanded upon to not just be the infrastructure that's built in a particular community. We're now turning into um, extensions of the carceral system. So it really is a psychology that a lot of folks have adopted that makes it equally as dangerous, which is why you can have a George Zimmerman, who was a neighborhood watch dude, kill Trayvon Martin. Do you see what I'm saying? So policing, when I think of policing, is not just those things that are sanctioned by the state, but it's also the culture that is being defined by white tech bro dudes who have no connection to our humanity.
Which is super interesting. So I'm wondering if you could, I know your expertise, I'm about to ask you a bunch of tech stuff, but
Mhm.
um, does your work intersect at all with any of the money parts, like crypto, like any of that world?
I was similar to a lot of people when with crypto. I mean, I should say I lost money like a lot of people with the crypto because I was trying to figure out what a decentralized currency could be, especially for communities who have been so marginalized away from fiat currency, right? Like the US dollar, etc. So really the jury is still out about that for me. Um, I know that it has opened up doors for people who wouldn't otherwise have banking or other mechanisms for financial empowerment, but I think that it's still, still tech company, and I don't know enough about it, and my personal perspective is that the little bit that I did invest, I took a hit. So I don't want to speak too much on that. I'm still learning.
Okay, and that's fair, and I appreciate that. So also too, does your work intersect at all with education, like any of the tech that's in schools?
Yeah, so the person that I recommend with that, he goes by, I don't know if he's still on Twitter, but Chris Gilliard, Professor Chris Gilliard. He does a lot of work around surveillance in the school systems, particularly around remote proctoring, which is the surveillance that our young people got hyper exposed to at the height of the pandemic, right? So imagine you're sitting in front of a computer. You know how it is sitting in front of a computer as an adult for however many hours of a day. Our children were being deemed um and failing out of school for like moving to the side or moving like this or stretching, or because these technologies are saying that they're cheating on their tests and different things like that, when it's really not healthy to be sitting in front of a screen for hours upon hours during a school day. And so and also there's no accountability for the data that's being extracted from the young people and around inside their homes, etc. So he does a lot of work around and has written a lot about not only remote proctoring but luxury surveillance, like all of the tools that we use in our homes like Alexa and Roomba, and those other surveillance tools that on their surface, oh, it's helping me set a timer for my meal, but on the back end, it's listening to every single thing that happens in my home and taking stock on who I am as a human being so that I can be targeted for advertisements and profit for tech companies. And then Roomba is scoping out all of the coordinates of your home to be sold to whatever data broker wants to purchase that data. So yeah, he's somebody that I definitely recommend that folks study. And I know, and I don't want to do a whole bunch of like lifting up like federal agencies and different things like that, but I will say that because of a lot of our advocacy in this realm, there are opportunities to put public voice on a federal level in an equal way to the way these tech companies have a voice on a federal level. So there's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau wants to take down data brokers. And so they're receiving public comment until June 13th. And data brokers like have no regard for your humanity. If you've ever gotten a million spam calls with somebody who knows your name, your address, your info, these are people who bought your data. And so, like, you can report how you've experienced those systems. There's also a campaign called Stop Data Broker Abuse, that you can sign on to, as well as like the government website where you can report directly. And then, as contentious as it is with the White House and all the contradictions, there are some folks within OSTP, which is the Office of Science and Technology Policy, that I trust, who are working to receive comments from the public on how automated tools are being used to surveil and monitor and manage workers, right? So if you're on the job and you feel like you're being tracked and surveilled by your boss or the company you're working for, you can report until June 15th, and then, or you can email worker surveillance at ostp.eop.gov. And so these are opportunities that a lot of us have advocated for, who are working in civil society or at community organizations, to have governments be responsive to the ways that we're experiencing these systems and to hold these tech companies accountable.
Yeah, thanks for that. Also, are there other areas, right, that, or, I'm sure there's a bajillion and many projects, but other areas where we may not even be thinking that we're being surveilled?
Assume you are.
Right.
If there, and this is not my comrades at Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. They always say we're shifting from paranoia to power. So the goal is not to heighten our paranoia and have us like, oh, I don't want to touch this or do this. The goal is to raise your consciousness so that you can advocate for yourself, or so that we don't just accept anything. You know what I'm saying? And that's with anything. That's with relationships. That's with a house you want to buy. You know what I'm saying? A job you want to take. It's the same with tech, with these tech innovations. Like, you want to be informed so that you don't just accept anything. And so that's why our data discotheques are so important, because we'll have all the stations, where people can learn about this stuff and they can become informed producers and consumers.
Right. And so I'm going to let Brittany ask some questions, because I've been kind of dominating the conversation. So, Brittany, let me let you jump in.
Well, I guess can I hear myself? Yeah. I guess my first comment is I like what you said about the paranoia part, because it's already here, right? So why be afraid of something that that we can't really control? So if we educate ourselves, we can be more in line with it, which gives us power, which gives us a voice, right? Every 4 years, me and Piper sit on the podcast and we talk about, political education, and before getting to the booths, knowing what things are important before the policies even get thrown in our face to say, okay, like, these are what the policies are. This is what we want you to choose. Like, so when we talk about giving people political power, right, I think educating ourselves in AI is like a huge step, especially for the next, I say, 8 years, right? With technology, the way where it is, what is going to happen in 8 years? It's like, how we laugh
Look what's happened in 8 months.
Man. So it's like, I love these conversations before 2024, right? I honestly love these conversations. We talked with you, during COVID? When did we talk to you? 20?
Yeah, we talked to Tawana a few times.
20?
I don't know, child.
But even since then, right? How much has changed
drastically since then?
So we talk about, I think during that time frame, we spoke to you in regards to the shift of them trying to get us to share our locations when it comes to tracking us for COVID.
Right. And listen, where's all the contact tracing data?
Girl.
That's all I'm saying. Dan Gilbert was given that contract. Have you heard anything?
Oh, gosh.
So that's what I'm saying. So anyway, go ahead.
No, just like I said, just interesting. I'm digressing because there's so much, and I try to respect the space that you're in, right? You're talking about this all day long. Like, you're beyond just the understanding of, AI taking over the world, right? So I guess my comment, some other comments are like, just how it's entered hip hop, right? How
Right.
it's entered. I don't know, on YouTube they have these shorts where, like, especially with the election time coming up, I don't know if you guys have seen it, where they like have Putin and Biden and what's the guy from North Korea?
Shoot, Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, they have like these AI versions of them doing like all this weird stuff. So it's just like interesting that we're in this space where we're seeing all these things like happen so fast, right? And so there's two sides from my perspective, where people are like, I have a coworker, we used to joke, I'm like, would you get chipped? Would you get the 666 mark of the beast? Would you get chipped up? He's like, he's like, why do I care about privacy? Like, if I'm a good citizen and I'm square with everything, like, why would I care about how I'm being surveillanced? Right?
Everybody say that until they caught with the pants down in front of, and your picture show up on the internet and you thought you was going to the bathroom in private. You know what I'm saying? We all have something that we don't want to be seen or known about us.
I agree.
And I think it's fine. Like, I believe in privacy.
I think that's one of our we talk about water being a human right. We talk about electricity being a human right. Privacy is a human right.
And I don't want to see all that. And I don't care.
Listen, somebody, it was just a story recently where a person had a Roomba, like the vacuum, the little vacuum that goes around your house, remote vacuum. They found their images on the internet. The Roomba was capturing their images of them dressing and all kinds of stuff, and sold it to a data broker who shared it on the internet. Now, when you walking past your Roomba, you're not thinking your Roomba is spying on you. You're thinking your Roomba just vacuuming your floor. And that's the point. It's like, it's not to stifle innovation. The point is to make sure innovation is doing the thing it says it's going to do and not violating our rights in the process. And so it's an uphill battle, but that's the battle that I fight every day. And I'm never going to get tired of talking to y'all or folks on the ground, because if the people on the ground don't know what's going on, then what am I doing this work for? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I in these spaces if I can't bring it back to my community?
100%. With the election coming up, what are your thoughts in how AI will play a factor in the election and the campaigning, and as far as what policies people should be trying to create or stand behind?
We're in a very dangerous territory right now. I was just, before I got on here, because I wasn't able to watch it earlier, I was watching the congressional hearings with regard to with some of the big tech companies, and some of the questions that they're asking are about election disinformation and things like Chat GPT and these other AI generated provocative campaigns that are out here are going to flood the market with misinformation. I mean, there was research that came out that proved that Facebook swayed the 2016 election. So that's why we're fighting so hard to get some real viable regulation in place. And there has been a lot of progress over this past several months, but we have a lot of work to do to try to limit some of those harms. But I mean, even if you look at on Twitter, since Elon Musk has taken over, misinformation misinformation has run rampant. And so they're, fighting very hard to reel some of these tech companies in so that we can not have elections be guided by AI generated tool. But it's an uphill battle.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about so you had said before how, you were working for years, right? Trying to get people to understand the harms, and then with various technologies, but we'll say AI, add AI onto the other technologies that you've been educating folks about. And so in this moment, in terms of how people, so Brittany talked about policy and you're talking about policy, what are some other ways that people can be powerful in this moment to take control of themselves or their data or their lives, basically.
I really want folks to. I'll use this example that was created by some researchers um, through University of Chicago, some PhD students and computer science professors created this system called Glaze. It's just one example, right? So what it does is Glaze is a system that artists can leverage to cloak their digital artwork so that AI can't mimic it, right? Then you have like other organizers who have created like tools that trick the algorithms and facial recognition. Um, we're look at our community campaign Project Greenlight with Freedom Growers, Alkebu-Lan, Detroit Community Technology Project, and others, where it's the pushing back against the conflations between surveillance and safety and re-energizing community members around what it means to be safe. And so all of these counter campaigns, Stop Data Broker Abuse with Fight for the Future and other organizations. And then there's also a Stop Tenant Abuse campaign that's with Upturn and some others that allow for community members to report, how they're being denied um, access to housing through automated tenant screening. And so the thing that makes me very happy and confident is that there are so many organizing efforts that are happening where community members are not just taking things as they are, but they're organizing campaigns in resistance, or they're creating their alternative visions. And so I see the discotheque as an intervention into the consciousness of community regarding these systems. It's not saying, hey, you can't like new things, but it's saying like, hey, what is this new thing? It's deepening the questions. Grace Lee Boggs would always say, sometimes the questions are more important than the answers. And I think my ultimate goal is to have folks asking deeper questions.
Yeah. So speaking of questions and people in power, I wanted to shout out a few people in the chat. Wanted to shout out Ben Frank, peace, brother Saeed. Also wanted to shout out who else is this in the chat here? Pierre. So there's a few people in the chat that just were sending some encouragement and some backup and some just wanted to shout them out. So
Hey,
man,
y'all.
I could be here forever talking to you about this stuff. I mean, because we're on Digital Justice Coalition together, so we chop it up at least once a month about this stuff. But
Right.
there's I know that you have, like you said, you were on the police commissioners I think it was a hearing or a meeting last week, right?
Yeah, I gave public comment at the hearing on expanding the surveillance traffic
So
cameras.
what are some so I know you were saying, so over the years, I know you've always told me that we've got to be in those meetings, those police commissioner meetings, which are
On Thursdays at 3. And then
Thursdays
they
at
have
3.
their community once a month in the community at like 6:30, I believe. But they rotate in the
Okay.
district. So
And we could find them on the Detroit.gov website, right?
yeah, the just look up Border Police Commissioners, Detroit Border
Mhm.
Police Commissioners.
And that's a pretty scary space to be. I mean, I'm
It is.
not trying to go up in no police. Even if it was a
No, you're right.
police commission meeting, police station, police ice cream truck. I'm not trying to
Let
go up
me
in
just say
those.
something. Let me just say something about that, Piper. You can attend virtually or call in too.
Mhm.
Those are things we fought for.
Mhm.
That's why with that's why I was so heartbroken when Detroiters Bill of Rights Proposal P did not pass, because one of the things that we pushed for was removing the so-called civilian oversight body from being able to host meetings at police precincts and police stations, because that they need to be a complete and total disconnect. And so we didn't win. The propaganda machine was well oiled, and unfortunately, voters did not vote for Proposal P, which would have given us affordable water, truly affordable housing, rights to access and mobility, would have gotten rid of having Board of Police Commissioner meetings inside police precincts. It would have prevented former law enforcement officers from being on the commission, and so many other things. And so, that was a difficult pill to swallow. That was 2 years worth of organizing, very, very long late night meetings, sometimes 8, 9 hour meetings into midnight. But we failed at it, and so it was a lesson that we had to learn from. But I will say that they do have to allow the virtual option where people can give their public comment without physically going into the police station to have their voice heard, which is a plus. And I'll finally say this: I no longer look at those meetings as a space to try to shift the opinions of the commissioners. I look at those meetings as a space to politicize the public. So you have the public that's in those spaces, and the information that they're getting one side. If we're not present, they're getting only law enforcement side of the story. And so I see those spaces as an intervention into that narrative.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like I want to bring you back another time. I mean, I could bring you back and back and back and back, but we've been on here for a minute, and I know that you have a lot to do. I don't want to hold
Sleep,
you too long.
sleep's the thing I need to do.
Yeah, sleep. I know you need to rest, and I wanna let you get your rest, because I love and care about you. But
We
before we
care about
go,
you too.
I want so again, if you go to the description of this video, I put Tawana's website in there, where if you go on her website, you can see her links to her books, and buy a book.
There's
There's
videos on there too.
videos. There's some great stuff on there. Go on the internet, check out other videos and interviews. Get involved with the campaigns. You can stay on top of the issues by just following her. Also, too, would like to just reiterate that event that we're doing, and I wanted you to just reiterate that event again, Tawana.
Yes, we have our Discotech and Skate that is coming up this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. All ages are welcome. It's at the historic Alkebu-Lan Village, located at 7701 Harper in Detroit. It's a Discovering Technology fair. There will be various stations where you can learn about some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And take home some materials to, look at on your own. You can skate at your own risk. You can play big board games, and you just be in community and have some of the most delicious food this side of the world
Oh,
from It's Food Detroit with the
whoop, whoop.
Brittany. So I'm just saying, look, I go down there a lot. So I'm just saying, I'll just support at events. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I can.
I love you for that too, by the way. I'll never forget there's one time. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Right. There was one time. Do you remember the time where it was like a newer customer, I think her mom was like picking up a pizza for her, and she was like tripping out about the weight. And didn't you give her money back or something like that for us? Like you were waiting there. And this lady was just like bugging. Like I'm talking about like, and usually I'm really good with people.
And it was their first time, and they're, you can't just order. Everybody know pizza take time.
Yeah. Yeah, she was like,
what was her challenge?
She was just waiting. Like,
yeah, she called.
Oh, she couldn't wait for it to cook.
Yeah, she was like upset though, like,
that the pizza wasn't cooked, or that
like,
you needed to actually like cook it. So let's just in all fairness.
Clear, sometimes.
Wait. There is no look. In all fair, before you say that, in all fairness, Brittany, just explain that when you show up, like the pizza is not made. The pizzas are made to order. So just describe, when we say made to order, we're not talking about
homemade from scratch.
The dough is made from scratch. All the sauces are made from scratch. So it's not that you have a pizza that was in the refrigerator that you are pulling out and you put it in a microwave and heat for 10 seconds. Can you just describe to us what this homemade pizza is?
It's delectable.
Thank you, Tawana. Tawana. I mean, it's like if you were to go to like Crispelli's, Buddy's, Cloverleaf, we're inside of Alkebu-Lan Village where the event is on Sunday from 2 to 5, and we're making fresh pizza. So a Detroit style pizza, it's not like a thin crust pizza like Piper's favorite style pie where it takes 15 minutes for a thin crust pizza, right?
Right.
Detroit style, it could take upwards, and I'm not using pizza ovens. God is good to the point where I've kind of scientifically gotten the recipe to where I know it will bake well in these convectional commercial ovens. Great bake, but they're not even pizza ovens. So it could range between 20 and 40 minutes for one pizza to bake. So I do put people in time slots. Sometimes I miss those slots. Depending on how busy we are, the people that walk in, there's a lot of variables. I'm also still getting acclimated with this. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time. But I'm just to swing it back to Tawana.
Wait.
Yeah.
Just tell us about the dough.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So we prep the dough in advance. Again, it's Detroit style pie. So prepping it in advance means we make the pizza always at least a day before service, right? So we're either prepping Friday or Saturday for Sunday so that the dough has like a texture, it's seasoned, it has a flavor. The longer the dough sits, the better. But on top of that, right, we have to pan each pizza out. Each pizza that you get is panned out. And that process takes, to do a batch of dough, which equates to about 60 pies, it takes a good hour and a half to pan the pizza. Then after the pizza's panned, it has to rise for an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the temperature in the kitchen. Then once it rises, it gets wrapped up and it gets refrigerated. So the day of, yes, the dough is ready, but again, it's an airy, it's cloudy, it's good, it's not dense, it's not heavy, but it still needs time to bake. Right. So it's all a process. So
and it's handmade.
It is handmade.
You're not pulling it out that thing that's made out of cardboard that you twist that people get those biscuits out of with the 2 silver things.
We have a 30-quart mixer in the kitchen. We make everything in-house fresh, like we were in the back of a pizzeria. We are a pizzeria because Alkebu-Lan has let us create that space, but we're not a pizzeria. So I appreciate you, Tawana, for the support you give us. Honestly, telling people about what we do on Instagram, being patient and facilitating when we do have a big crowd, and just coming to check on us and getting good food. I really do appreciate you humbling yourself, coming down, acting like a normal bystander with all the great work you do. So yeah.
Oh, and I'm about to plant your tomatoes and your basil.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Listen. No, I appreciate you. I feel so nourished. When I can and I'm here, I'm like, oh shoot, Brittany over today. I'll be so excited. I'll be so excited. And I get home, I'm like, and I haven't posted about this delicious pizza in a while. Not just pizza, they got a bomb salads, they got the vegan chicken, so many things. So Brittany really does put her love into that food, and I'll say she training up the young people too.
Yeah,
that she training up the next generation. So that is stuff to be celebrated. So I really hope y'all pouring into her and celebrating her work.
Wait, what's the young man that's with you now? Where there's Amir. Who else is with you? G-Mac's son.
Amir, there's Corey, there's Latrell. There's Mama Bianca's sons that have started helping us.
Yeah. Latrell, tell us about Latrell.
Oh my gosh. Latrell is the youngest of 3. He is he an Aquarius? He's an Aquarius, and he's very, very intelligent. He's growing, right? They all are. They're all very interesting and have such beautiful souls and don't know it. He's addicted to layers of hip hop that I wish he wouldn't be attracted to. But anyway, one day Piper and P Groove came up and we were talking about the conversation where he's telling us that he's an atheist. And P Groove and Piper were just picking his brain, trying to understand where it was deriving from. You know how kids say things that's
right.
Not what's the word? Not thought provoking, but what's the word I want to say? Provocative, right? Mm-hmm. They want to say things that are just mysterious and get people, reeled in. But he held his own a little bit. I understood some of his stances. I can't remember if Piper or P Groove was like, were you telling P Groove like he wasn't gonna be able to convert him? Like,
well, yeah, P Groove was upset, and I was just like, let him find his way. Like, you can't scream somebody into spiritual belief.
Right.
Like,
Right.
if he not rocking with it, he not rocking with it. But at least try to understand
but that's so
where he is and just accept where he is. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a spiritual journey. You can't be like, you know.
and they're all gonna be back Sunday, so they're gonna be so excited to be
Yay.
up there. They listen, they are gonna be, they're not even gonna be able to work. I'm gonna be in that kitchen by myself Sunday. So excited to be running around that village. It's really gonna be a movie. So I hope everyone that's listening can make it out. It's gonna be a special space on Sunday. So yeah, thank you, Tawana, again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm very excited. Oh wait, but before we go, did you have anything else you wanted to add, Brittany?
No, I'm just thankful. I'm good.
Okay, so it's Food Detroit.
It's Food
Yes.
Detroit on Instagram, ITSFOOD Detroit.
Vegan.
Vegan pizza. We have things for other people as well. Yeah. See you Sunday, May 21st. Disco Skate 2 to 5. Free skating. Bring your own skates. We have skates for you. Come get some pizza, meet some cool people, and be in community.
And that's really cool. Thanks. So Tawana, before we go, did you want to share anything more?
I just want to say with the AI, don't believe the hype, but do be concerned about the harms. Some organizations that you should pay attention to are the Algorithmic Justice League, of course, the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition, Detroit Community Technology Project, DAIR, DAIR, ORCA, ORCA, and then Chris Gilliard and his work, Ruha Benjamin and her work, Sophia Noble and her work. There's so many people, but I just really want everybody in the audience to, like, as you're thinking about AI, because it is really going to take so much precedence over what we're thinking and doing, that you have some voices that you can listen to that are not coming from the tech companies who are driving the culture. And so, yeah.
Thank you. And then again, your website.
And I'm sure I missed some folks, but I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. Your website's in the chat, right? Tawana Petty. Is it .org?
Yep, tawanapetty.org. You can also follow pettypropolis.org, PETTYPROPOLIS.org.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Digital Justice Coalition, we are
DetroitDJC.org.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so, yeah, come to our event. Look, we got heavy hitters like Tawana organizing with us and making sure that we know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So also too, keep supporting Detroit is Different.
Yes.
Network.
Shout out to Kari.
Shouts out to Kari Wade Frazier, our proprietor, and Joe Black helping.
Yes, Joe Black. Yes, engineer.
Today. Oh, and your podcast. We got to shout your podcast.
Oh, yes. We be messing up changing the name, but look at voices from the grassroots, as well as Detroit I Do Mind Dying. We Do Mind Dying. I don't know. My teammates are Kwazi Akwamu and Yusef Bunchy Shakur. And we are on every other Saturday. So this coming Saturday.
At what time?
At noon.
Okay, so every other Saturday at noon. So, and it's a great podcast. Some deep intellectual. These are guerrilla intellectuals. These are real guerrilla intellectuals. Like, for real. I'm not even like, I'm laughing and joking, but I'm serious. Real guerrilla intellectuals.
Yeah. I sit there. I be learning a lot. I can bring the tech perspective, but I learned so much about history from being in conversation with those two.
Yeah, y'all, that's a nice combo right there. So that's top notch. And then, and just keep listening to the Detroit is Different podcast network on DetroitisDifferent.net for all the podcasts. All the socials are Detroit is Different. And then Piper Carter podcast. You can go to our website, pipercarterpodcast.com, and check out all the, episodes, channels, but also too, we're on Instagram. And we have a Facebook group and we have a Facebook page. We're working to get the Facebook group, a little more active. We want to make sure our community is more engaged. So gonna keep working on that. And every Tuesday at 8 p.m. But working to be here more on time. But today we were on time, thanks to Tawana. Thank you. And on YouTube we're live, but we post the recordings on all the other podcast channels. So Apple Podcast and Spotify and iHeartRadio, what is it? Amazon Music and Audible, and Stitcher. So wherever you listen to your podcast. And thank you to the listeners and everyone that tuned in this week. You could go to the Patreon. We're going to get more people to be on the Patreon. I always make the joke, I just want someone on the Patreon. But it's Piper Carter Podcast on the Patreon. You're welcome to donate to the Cash App Piper Carter Studio, or the PayPal is just it's Piper Carter Studio as well. So much love. Appreciate you, Tawana Petty, Petty Propolis, and all the things that you're doing, and looking forward to bringing you back. We got to figure out how to we got to get together and make this a little, maybe quarterly series or something like that. Download us on what we need to be doing and what we need to be knowing. So appreciate you, and looking
thanks
forward
for
to
being
seeing
spearheading media justice for so many years.
Oh, well, can't do it without the comrades. We're in this together, right?
Yeah
we're in this together. So together forever.
You and me must never part. Okay.
All right. So and thank y'all. So we'll see y'all next time. And remember, check out Tawana's show this Saturday at noon is it on the Detroit is Different network?
Yes, on Detroit
is Different. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Peace.